If you're wondering how you can take an arpeggio and make it sound bluesy and put it to use in your playing, then check this video out, and I think you're going to dig it. Hey, John here with the Blues Guitar Institute for another Tuesday Blues lesson where we really break things down to their simplest form and build some cool acoustic blues, one fundamental step at a time. If you're new here, go ahead and hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, show your support for the channel, and let's get started. So what you just heard is super bluesy, and it has a very familiar standard blues sound to it. A lot of bass lines in electric blues really center around this form. That's really just running through a 12-bar blues pattern, but the magic is in the arpeggio, and that's what we're going to talk about today. We're playing this bass line and really arranging it around a dominant seventh arpeggio. Before we get into that, let's back up and let's talk about what an arpeggio is and how we get to that dominant seventh arpeggio. First things first, an arpeggio is a musical term, just means broken chord. So you can play a chord like this, you would strum through it. We would call that strumming, right? But if we arpeggiate it, we're breaking it up and picking it out. It just means playing the chord tones separately and distinctly. Now, to put things in the blues arena, we're going to focus on the dominant seventh arpeggio. So a major arpeggio is a frame of reference. Let's say we're going to analyze this from G. A major arpeggio would consist of the root, or G, and the third, or B, and the fifth, D. So this is a G major arpeggio. You can play it up and down. Okay? Those are the only three notes that you need for a G major chord, the only three notes that you need, therefore, for a G major arpeggio. The only difference being that you would strum a chord, but you would pick out the notes of an arpeggio. Now, if we want to add the dominant seventh color to that, we're looking to add the flat seventh of a G major scale. So you would play the G major scale. Each one of these notes gets a number. Root, or the first degree, second, third, that's that B note we just used, the fourth, the fifth, there's our D, the sixth is an E, and then the seventh here is an F sharp, but we want a flat seventh. So we're going to back that up for a dominant seventh, and we're going to play this F note. So that's what we're looking for when we build a dominant seventh chord. There's the three notes of a G major chord. Add that F note in there, and you've got a dominant seventh. That's why when you play this bar chord in this form, you hear that F ringing. If you're familiar with the G7 shape here, that's your F on the first fret of the first string. So really listen out for that. That's what makes this chord a little dangerous, a little unsettled, and very bluesy, this dominant seventh deal. So if we're going to add that to our arpeggio, we've got the root, third, fifth, and now the flat seven. Then in the opener, we move this pattern through a 12-bar blues. So we're going to end up using a C dominant 7 and a D dominant 7 chord. And we're really just going to keep that same idea, right? We're staying with the dominant 7 arpeggio, so it's going to be the same set of notes, meaning the root, the third, the fifth, and the flat 7. You just change your reference point. That root travels from the G to C. Here's what we're talking about here. So if we take this in G and move it into C, we'll just start our root here. And then we need an E note for our third of C. And then up to a G for our fifth. And then we need a B flat for our seventh. The shape of that, us guitarists, we love shapes, right? So the shape of this really looks a lot like this. We're just starting on the 5th string. So now we've got the G dominant 7, we'll just say G7 for short, arpeggio, and the C7 arpeggio. And we can move that up and start on D here. And we've got the D7 arpeggio. We start with our D, then we've got our F sharp, we're moving up here to A, and then C. So once again, G, I'm just playing up and down, and then C, and then D. Those are all dominant 7 arpeggios. So now what we can do is make the line a little more bluesy by moving back into a shuffle. So that shuffle rhythm is always that familiar dun, 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 dun. And we can take that and pump out this cool bass line. And the only thing that we're doing there that we haven't discussed is I'm walking up to the octave on the 5th fret of the 4th string. That's a G. I'm going to do that pretty much throughout. We may play with it a little bit here and there, sometimes ascend, sometimes descend, but we're using the notes directly out of this arpeggio. So that has the real shuffle feel to it. I'm just doing these little double punches like that. And I'm keeping a palm mute on the guitar as well. And then after every set, each position, each note gets 2 pumps. Then you move to the next. And then at the end of the measure, you'll break that stride a little bit and just do on the flat 7, just do that once, and then up to the octave, do that once. Then we can move that up into our C7 arpeggio. And you can also do it in the D7 arpeggio. So as far as our arrangement, this is a great way to put the arpeggio concept to work for you. So what we're going to do is follow a 12-bar quick change blues progression in G and play that little pattern. So every time you would play a G, you'll play the G7 arpeggio pattern that we just learned. And then anytime you would play a C, you would play that C7 arpeggio, and then the D, of course, as well. So the bars we're going to go by, we're going to play 1 bar on the G, and then we'll play 1 bar on the C. This is quick change. So in bar 2, we go to the 4 chord, C. Then for bars 3 and 4, we're back on G. Bars 5 and 6, we're back on C, and then back to G for bars 7 and 8, and then 9, we move up to the D, 10, down to the C, and then 11 and 12, both on the G. And we've got a little triplet to finish us out on the G. So let's walk through the arpeggiated dominant 7 blues pattern that we're going to do through this 12-bar quick change blues in G. It's a lot of information packed right into that, but let's give it a listen, and I think you'll fall right into place with this. We're going to play through it pretty slowly. As you may have noticed, at a couple of spots, instead of ascending up to the octave, like this, we worked it down like this, just to keep things interesting. Now let's play this up to speed. 2, 3, 4. So I hope you can tell from this video that arpeggios are not just something that shredders do. This is not just for the metalheads. As a blues guitarist, you can really lock into the groove with the study of arpeggios. But to take this even one step further, you can really gain a lot by working on your arpeggios just because you're focusing on the chord tones. So if you ever get into improvising or writing or looking for that perfect little lick that brings out the right notes, arpeggios will really help you do that because you focus on the chord tones. And if you're playing a chord tone, the right chord tone at the right moment, that is a really sweet sound. And arpeggios really are somewhat of a shortcut to help you get there. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video. I want to invite you to check out the Acoustic Blues Jumpstart. If you're looking for a great place to get started with the fundamentals of acoustic blues, that's your spot. Acoustic Blues Jumpstart. Get started by going to bluesguitarinstitute.com/start now. Alright, that's it for this lesson. Really hope that you enjoyed it, and more importantly, that you got something out of it. Be sure to practice smart, play on, and I'll see you in the next Tuesday Blues.